Plainclothes officers used GPS to track a stolen car down to a condo parking lot here in East Price Hill.
Police chief said Ryan Hinton was in a stolen vehicle that had been stopped by police, and he ran with a gun in his hand.
In other news tonight, Cincinnati Police are sharing body camera video of the moments that led to an officer-involved shooting and killing of a suspect in East Price Hill.
They heard the metal from the firearm hit the concrete. This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand, and continues to run through the dumpsters. The officer who did discharge his firearm said that when the individual came out between the dumpsters, he had the firearm in front of him. It was in like a bladed position, and it was pointed at the officer. Several officers gave chase, and one officer discharged his firearm towards the individual who had a firearm, struck that individual. That individual is deceased.
2 other people were taken into custody during all of this, and police are still searching for a 4th suspect.
And then not even 24 hours later, get this, police say the victim's father intentionally drove into the deputy.
The crash involving Rodney Hinton occurred 2 hours after the family viewed the body cam video of Ryan's shooting. Rodney Hinton Jr. was charged with aggravated.
I think most would agree Father Rodney Hinton snapped.
A man whose teenage son was killed by police is now accused of killing a sheriff's deputy in turn.
38-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr. is charged with aggravated murder. Prosecutors say he intentionally struck a recently retired Hamilton County deputy who was on traffic patrol.
I've got an officer now.
And this was just minutes after watching the body camera footage of his 18-year-old son being shot in the back by the police just the day before. What he did next only made this situation 10 times worse, because now the Hinton family is going to mourn 2 losses: the loss of their 18-year-old son, and now the loss of their father. Because rest assured, the Hamilton County prosecutor is going to be going for the death penalty, 100%.
Hunted down. The man accused of intentionally hitting and killing a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy has been indicted for aggravated murder, and they are seeking the death penalty.
As it sits now, Rodney Hinton finds himself in the Claremont County Jail with no bond, as the city of Cincinnati tries to piece together how this all happened. So to get a better idea, let's go back to the beginning. The Cincinnati Police needs to release more than 20 seconds of some body camera footage, because I am not seeing what they're seeing. And I think Ryan's father, Rodney Hinton, doesn't see it either. At 2:45 in the morning on Thursday, May 1st, an Edgewood, Kentucky man would call police to report his 2021 Kia Telluride stolen from his driveway. Officers in Edgewood, Kentucky would then report the stolen vehicle's information to NCIC. Now, thankfully for the car owner, his vehicle had GPS tracking on it. The GPS tracker on the stolen vehicle last pinged at this location, which turned out to be a condominium complex just over the river in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, once the stolen vehicle was located by the Cincinnati Police, 2 undercover officers would drive out to that complex to put eyes on the stolen SUV. Not only would those undercover officers locate that stolen SUV at the back of the parking lot, to their surprise, when they pulled up, there were people sleeping inside the SUV, multiple people. Seeing they were outnumbered, those undercover officers would then pull away to allow the marked police officers to descend upon the location and make the arrest. And that's where this body camera footage picks up, at about 9:30 in the morning.
Get the fuck out! Go.
The officer who did discharge his firearm said that when the individual came out between the dumpsters, he had the firearm in front of him. It was in like a bladed position, and it was pointed at the officer. And he felt threatened for his life, and that's why he discharged his firearm. And again, total 6 seconds.
As they approached the stolen vehicle, officers noticed there were 4 individuals inside the SUV. The 4 suspects inside the stolen vehicle were later identified as 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, 18-year-old Sincere Grigsby, 18-year-old Jarrell Austin, and 19-year-old Deontay Bullocks. Now, at some point, the 4 men inside the stolen SUV noticed the Cincinnati Police walking up, so they all hopped out and began to run. Unfortunately for 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, as he went to run, he slipped and fell on the ground right beside the dumpsters, as you can see in the body camera footage. As Ryan fell, the firearm he was holding also fell to the ground. And this was right as those Cincinnati police officers were right behind him. Now, what happens next? I'm not sure that I'm on the same page with the Cincinnati police and what they see. Apparently, Ryan goes to stand up and continue running towards the woods. But officers also state Ryan picked his firearm back up and then continued to run towards the woods. Now, there's only about 20 seconds of footage that the Cincinnati police released. And from what I can see, Ryan was shot in the back as he tried to flee into the woods. However, what the Cincinnati police state is after Ryan got back up off the ground and picked up his firearm while running in the opposite direction from officers, they state Ryan pointed his firearm at one of them. And that's when this officer here proceeded to fire approximately 5 shots in Ryan's direction. Ryan then proceeds to go airborne when he's hit with 2 of those rounds. He then falls to the ground and the body camera footage shuts off. And that's it. That little clip is the only footage that the Cincinnati police have released so far. Now, they released this clip almost immediately, which, as we know, is not common. And they did this because the Cincinnati police believe it shows that they were justified in the shooting.
Based on the officer's interviews, the officer who did discharge his firearm said that when the individual came out between the dumpsters, he had the firearm in front of him. He was in like a bladed position. And it was pointed at the officer. And he felt threatened for his life, and that's why he discharged his firearm. We do not expect the officers to wait until they're fired upon before they feel the necessity to fire.
There was no indication that he fired his gun?
Correct. No indication.
But again, I'm not sure I'm seeing what they're seeing. In no way am I justifying Ryan's behavior, but I also can't state that I saw Ryan pointing his firearm at any of the officers because that's not shown in the footage. Now, the Cincinnati police did state the officers on scene did render first aid to Ryan.
And I do want to clear up, based on information that we received, the individual was struck in the chest. It exited out the back. He was struck in the arm. We believe it went through his arm and into his side. So those were the 2 rounds that hit him.
Out of those 5 shots, Ryan was hit twice, in the chest and in the arm. Now, responding to this scene as a paramedic, there are a few things that you want to do right away. Number 1, always scene safety. That goes without question. If there's an active shooter, the scene is not safe and you do not enter. But for the situation at hand, the scene is now safe. Now, some of the main things to focus on Ryan would have been airway and bleeding control. When it comes to airway, you want to make sure that it's open and that the person is breathing. I would have put this patient on a non-rebreather mask at 15 liters right away. Blood loss equals oxygen loss, so high flow oxygen will definitely apply in this case. And number 2, any obvious major hemorrhage you want to control right away by applying direct pressure and, if needed, a tourniquet. And again, this will be for any massive bleeding. As the chief stated, one of the gunshot wounds was to the chest. Now, there's a dressing you can put on that wound, which is called an occlusive dressing. Now, what this dressing normally entails is a transparent piece of material taped on 3 sides. And what this does is if there's a sucking chest wound, it allows the air to exit the chest wall but not enter back in. Because when you go to take another breath back in, that piece of plastic sucks back down into the hole, not allowing outside air into the chest. And these are applied when a pneumothorax is created in the chest. What happens is trauma to one of the lungs can cause it to collapse, or in this case, a gunshot wound can cause it to perforate. This in turn can cause that sucking chest wound, which you then apply the occlusive dressing. Now, ultimately in this scenario, however, this would have been a rapid transport to the hospital. Most of the patient care is going to be done in the back of the ambulance during the transport. Again, after quickly entering the scene, addressing the airway and any major bleeding issues. Now, on the way to the hospital, you get the patient on the cardiac monitor and also get 2 large bore IVs placed, 1 in each arm. Depending on the vital signs and how much bleeding, you're going to want to run fluid wide open. And the hospital will be very thankful when you get there if you already have the IVs placed, because they can get right to work. The one thing that's going to save the patient's life in a scenario like this is surgical intervention. The bleeding needs to be stopped. That's not going to be done out in the field on scene. That's going to be done in the ER in the operating room, depending on the location of the bleeding. Now, tragically for Ryan, despite everyone's efforts to try and save his life, he would die from his injuries hours later. As for the other 3 individuals in the SUV, they would all be located within about 24 hours, and they would wind up being charged with felony obstruction of official business and receiving stolen property. The following day, on May 2nd, at around 9:30 in the morning, Ryan's family members, including his father, Rodney Hinton Jr., went down to Cincinnati's Criminal Investigation Unit to meet with the chief to watch the body camera footage. Michael Wright, an attorney with the Cochran Law Firm, accompanied the family to this meeting, and he later stated that Ryan's father, Rodney, became very distraught in this meeting, which I think is an understandable response after watching your son's life get taken on body camera footage. But apparently Rodney became so distraught when it came time to leave, nobody wanted him to drive because he was that upset. So at approximately 10:30 in the morning, Rodney left the Criminal Investigation Unit with other family members, leaving his car in the parking lot. Now, they would wind up driving around Cincinnati for about 2 hours before bringing Rodney back to the Criminal Investigation Unit to pick up his car. Rodney was seen at approximately 12:50 p.m. getting in his car in the Criminal Investigation Unit parking lot on Lynn Street and leaving. And this is where this incident gets exponentially worse. Just 11 minutes later, Rodney would find himself driving around the University of Cincinnati College campus. At this same time, there was a commencement ceremony going on at the college. So it was really busy and there was a lot of traffic down there. To help with this traffic, the college would wind up hiring local law enforcement to come in for a special duty and help direct traffic around the campus. And these officers would include retired Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson. Larry had just retired in December of 2024 after serving 33 years in law enforcement. Now, Larry was working at this intersection. It's at Martin Luther King Drive and Burnett Woods. As Rodney Hinton Jr. pulled up to this intersection, Larry was outside of his patrol car operating the traffic light. And this is when something inside Rodney snapped. As we now know, Rodney would wind up aiming the front of his car at Deputy Henderson and punch the gas. Tragically, Deputy Henderson was struck, and Rodney would wind up crashing into this metal pole. Following the crash, both Deputy Henderson and Rodney Hinton were transported to the local trauma center at UC Hospital, which was literally just blocks away from where this crash occurred. At the beginning, both Deputy Henderson and Rodney were listed in critical condition. Just hours later, at 5:30 p.m., the Cincinnati Police Chief held a media briefing where she stated that Deputy Henderson had succumbed to his injuries and died. Now, as for Rodney, apparently he wasn't in as bad of shape as everybody thought, because just hours later at 8 p.m., Rodney was placed under arrest and discharged from the University of Cincinnati Hospital. Now, Rodney was transported down to the Cincinnati Police Department and questioned by Detective Carl Beebe in connection to the crash. After the questioning, for Rodney's safety, he was transported over to the Claremont County Jail, which is about 30 or 40 minutes away from Cincinnati.
Go ahead, boys. We're going to start taking these restraints off of you. When we do, I'll have you put your hands up on the counter, okay?
All right. I need you to lift your left foot up a little bit so I can get this shackle off you. All right. Still good, right?
And the reason for this is because Cincinnati is in Hamilton County. And since Deputy Henderson was a retired Hamilton County deputy, the powers that be didn't think Rodney would be safe in the Hamilton County Jail, which they were probably right. Now, the following morning on May 3rd, Rodney would be transported back to Cincinnati to be arraigned on his charges.
Do me a favor, just turn your head to the right. Turn your head, I'm sorry, to your left. We'll lift your hands. All right, you good? Ready? Ready? Come on now. Watch your head. Watch your head. Okay, ready? Step down slow. Stay with this deputy right here, okay? Come forward a little bit. He's gonna shut the door. Good?
At his arraignment, Rodney Hinton Jr. was charged with felony aggravated murder. And in Ohio, that charge can get you the death penalty. Now, this was a short hearing, but it wasn't over. Since the prosecution was going for no bond, there was another hearing set for Tuesday, May 6th. Rodney was transported back to the Claremont County Jail for the weekend. Now, that Saturday afternoon, Rodney's family held a press conference.
Friday morning, we met with the police chief of Cincinnati, and we viewed the body cam video of what happened with the police-involved shooting with Ryan. We stayed at the chief's office for about an hour and a half, and what we saw was disturbing. The family was upset, as you can imagine, watching your son, watching your grandson, watching your loved one getting shot and killed by the police was upsetting to this family. We left out of the police chief's office, and a few hours later, I was made aware that Rodney had an incident with a police officer that resulted in the officer's death.
At this press conference, his family would distance himself from Rodney's actions.
I'm Rodney Hinton Sr. I want to give a condolence out to the officers that got killed, my whole family. I'm asking for forgiveness. And I've been praying hard for the officer that killed my grandson. I've been praying hard for him and his family because I know he's hurting off this. As I seen in the video about my grandson, I seen two scared people. I seen the officer scared and I seen my grandson scared. So it's an unfortunate incident that happened. So that's all I seen. It was like, I didn't see the police there trying to kill. No, what I seen was two persons made a mistake. My grandson made a mistake being there, and the officer, he was trying to get back to his family too. So that's what I seen.
But they also stated at this press conference they wanted more answers on what happened to their son, Ryan.
We only saw one angle. We only saw, I believe it was the shooter's body cam. So we requested the records, we requested all the other body cams, we requested the reports, we did the ordinary public records request so that we can really analyze what occurred. I mean, what we saw in the video, it's hard to determine whether or not that officer was in imminent danger or should have thought that they were in imminent danger before they took shots. Being in a stolen car, having a gun, that doesn't mean that you should be shot and killed.
Because like a lot of people, they don't believe the statements that the Cincinnati police are making and the body camera footage are lining up. So fast forward to Tuesday, May 6th at 9 a.m., Rodney Hinton Jr. was transported back to Cincinnati for his no bond hearing. Now this hearing got heated quickly.
At the prior hearing before today. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat, sir. Sit down.
Acting under the cover of law.
You see, that's Rodney's brother in the gallery knocking on the glass, trying to get his attention. Also in the gallery was about 30 sheriff's deputies, and they proceeded to get into a shouting match with Rodney's brother. This would halt the arraignment, and Rodney was escorted back out of the courtroom, while the commotion in the gallery was handled and Rodney's brother was escorted outside of the courthouse. Shortly thereafter, Rodney would be escorted back into the courtroom so they can continue his hearing.
Waive probable cause as a result of being acquainted with the case. I'm waiving probable cause.
Thank you so much. And is there a plea this morning?
There's a plea of not guilty, Your Honor.
Plea of not guilty?
Yes.
Will you enter a plea of not guilty? And thank you. And as to bond, the state has requested a hearing on the issue of bond or bail. You may be aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Who would like to proceed?
I'm proceeding, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So based on witness statements as well as the video, the vehicle accelerated quickly, proceeded eastbound, crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic when there was no longer traffic to obstruct his travel. Crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic, went to the left of those little stanchions that are in the middle of the roadway, into the oncoming lanes, through the intersection, directly at where Deputy Henderson was standing, struck Deputy Henderson and the metal utility pole on the northeast corner of the intersection.
Okay. Were there any evidence of skid marks?
No, there were no indications at any point that he tried to brake, stop, or otherwise avoid Deputy Henderson.
And is that the conclusion that our accident reconstructionists have come to at this point?
At this time, yes.
Okay. And does it appear from your review of the video that he headed straight for Deputy Henderson?
Yes.
And did any of the multiple witnesses that you spoke to and the people that were in the vehicles that were surrounding him, the people that were on scene, did anyone indicate that any attempt to slow down or deviate his path straight to Deputy Henderson?
No, everybody said that he accelerated and was traveling at a high rate of speed all the way up until the time that he struck Deputy Henderson.
Okay. And when he struck Deputy Henderson, was the deputy injured?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after he struck Deputy Henderson?
Deputy Henderson was launched several feet through the air. He came to rest in a turn lane several feet from where the collision occurred.
Judge, first of all, I would like to offer on behalf of the Hinton family and myself, prayers to the Hinton family, prayers to the family of Larry Henderson, the fallen deputy, and I thank the court for having a fair assembly in the courtroom today. With that, I'd like to ask you a few questions, not a lot, okay?
Sir.
You said that Mr. Hinton left the police station around 12:30. CIS.
He initially left around 10:30.
Came back and then left again.
And then returned a couple hours later, yes.
And you said that individuals that know Mr. Hinton, his family members, were saying that he appeared to be agitated, upset, and so forth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know the source of that agitation or that distraughtless, do you? If you know, you might not. I don't think you do, but you have to answer the question.
The source of the agitation?
Yes.
Well, I would assume it was because of I believe it was because of the video and the reason that he was at CIS.
Do you know the mental history of Mr. Hinton?
No, I do not know detailed mental history.
Right. Do you know whether or not he's had any medically documented infirmities or conditions? Do you know that? You don't, do you?
No, I do not.
The initial detective that spoke with Rodney, Carl Beebe, would testify at this arraignment to some of the facts that he knew about the case. Rodney's attorney would then appeal to the judge for bond, arguing that Rodney wasn't in the right mental state when he committed this crime. The judge would wind up denying Rodney's bond, and he was transported back to the Claremont County Jail. Now, none of the officers involved in the shooting of Ryan Hinton, Rodney's son, have been named yet. Apparently, within days of Rodney's arrest, multiple GoFundMes were created on the website.
GoFundMe, the online fundraising platform, issued a statement after campaigns supporting Rodney Hinton Jr. racked up donations over the weekend with the local Fraternal Order of Police, who say GoFundMe did the right thing.
You've got officers, community members that are trying to process the fact that we've had a deputy murdered, only to see that somebody's trying to raise money for somebody that's accused.
Now they're nowhere to be found. It took this to make it happen. A letter from the president of Ohio FOP demanding GoFundMe remove the fundraisers. It reads in part, "This is absolutely outrageous to fundraise off the assassination of a law enforcement officer." Hours later, GoFundMe responded with a letter of their own.
Not only did they take it down, but they said, listen, we're sorry that this happened to this deputy, and they give their condolences.
It explained fundraisers like those supporting Hinton are prohibited. Raising money for people charged with violent crimes violates GoFundMe's policy.
One of them made it up to over $5,000. But after outrage from the Fraternal Order of Police, GoFundMe removed those campaigns from their website. And this is where we're at, folks. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps push our content out to a wider audience. Make sure to leave a comment on what you think. We try to answer as many comments as possible because we want to hear from you. And we hope to see you in the next video. Au revoir. Good day.